We can make models for anyone. We can also make models of anything. Anything can be modeled, and all things have many aspects to them. But in order to create a clear model, only a few aspects of a thing can be considered at any one time. So I think about, I kind of break the world of all the possible aspects of something into two big buckets. So there are the facets of the thing itself, and then there are the forces that act upon a thing. If you're designing a phone, there are many things about this phone that you could model. You can imagine it kind of from a macro lens to a micro lens. So you can think about this phone conceptually, the notion of a phone. What is a phone? Is this a phone? Is it a computer? How do we model the idea of this thing? That's like the highest level, right? It has a physical structure that we could be talking about. There's a software structure to it, how the software is built. There's a physical interface, kind of as we move down the line from the highest level conceptual macro ways of conceptualizing this thing in my hand and all the parts in it, down to physical interface, software interface, particular elements. No, we're just talking about the camera part of this. Or no, we're just talking about the icons, down to make a model of the transistors, all the transistors that are in this thing, right? This aspects card is a way to provoke thinking about all the different things that we could be talking about so that we can be very specific about the ones that we want to focus on. But we can model particular parts of it. And so figuring out what we want to model, again, going back to our intent for a particular purpose, will help us better achieve our intent. But then there's also the forces that act upon the thing. Thinking back to the original, one of the first slides about the forces kind of pushing on that house, whether it's the weather or the business intent, right? That's a force. You don't get to say, you know, actually, we don't want to have to make money on this because that would be hard. No, you just need to you need to just do it. Or user limitations. You know, what would be great is if we could make these buttons smaller and just shrink people's index fingers. Just shrink it down. Then it'd be a lot easier to design this thing. You don't get to do that. Or gravity. This is a beautiful device, and it's got this really crappy cover on it because I don't want it to break when I drop it because I live in an environment with gravity. It's just a force in the environment that I have to understand and adapt to. So we have facets, the things that make up this thing itself. Apple gets to control everything about this from a facets perspective. But then there are forces in the environment that Apple just has to understand and deal with, make sense of, and make the facets of this the best it can be given those forces. So there's two categories. And we lay them out so that we can say, these are the ones we're going to focus on in this model, and these are the ones we're not. Summarize how different users fulfill their needs using our software. Okay, so we're talking about software. Let's see, software has business intent, right? There's a reason the business does it. There are user needs for why people use it. There's an ecosystem of, you know, is this a piece of software that's being used in the field or on a computer with a bunch of other pieces of software? We're talking about the software itself. We could be talking about the system level. We could be talking about the structure of the software, how it's put together. We could be talking about the interface of the software. We could be talking about a particular button or button style. So this is sort of the breadth of all the things we could be talking about, and we lay them out so that we can say, we're not talking about that, and we're not talking about that, and we're not talking about that. We're really only talking about user needs for this particular model. And you know what? That's really nice because invariably, when you start having conversations about these things, people are going to say, well, what about the business intent? And you're going to say, you know what? You're probably right, but that's not what we're doing here. And it's really nice to be able to confidently say, that's not what we're doing right now. You're probably right. We'll get to that later, right? These other things certainly need to be understood and made clear and modeled. But in order to best understand the user needs, we're going to focus just on those so that we can make the most clear representation of what those things are.